I just, okay, yeah, I'll send you my music playlist, Borby. Welcome to News for Free America, coming to you live. We are your hosts, Dallas and Kiera.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
It's going to be a watch party this evening, all about corruption. So I'll give you guys a few minutes. We'll give about 3 to 5 minutes for some people to log in and start watching, and give you guys a minute to do whatever you need to do. Bathroom break, get yourself a cup of coffee, cold beer, popcorn, beef jerky, whatever you need.
Beef jerky?
Beef jerky.
I think Borg is having some rabbit jerky over there. Probably.
That's baby making music. Yeah, Borg, you done like that?
Well, we need to turn it off.
All right, well, just a few minutes, and then we'll go.
Bitchute. I got on 2 chains. No, I ain't did it, boy. I'm dream chasing, but I ain't fulfilling, boy. The bitch bad, and she say I can get it, boy. This a hit and I'ma make a nigga feel it, boy. I blow the range, my sweater saying my campaign on 10. I like the bitch, she bad fuck, but I'm really into her friend. House off in the hill, got it off a cocaine. Bitch, a door, Lamborghini, condo off a biscuit. Bitch, I'm in my lane, fresh sale, no stain. Robert Jean with the stone. The safest man's my
All right, everybody, we're gonna go ahead and get it going, get it rolling. News for Free America this evening. We are having a watch party. We will be watching the first Shadowgate. So the reason why I'm kind of choosing Shadowgate, and then we got 2 other ones after that, is it really feels like this is a distraction going on. All this news headline after news headline, explosions, fraud here, fraud over there, COVID vaccine, COVID's deaths, and it just seems like it's really a distraction from what's really going on. And what's really going on, you can tell in the stimulus is nothing but corruption. And Trump went ahead and signed that bill, and he signed it with the 600 in there and was like, oh no, we're gonna, push for 2,000. And
It seems like they're trying to get us paid that $600 like overnight too.
Yeah, like,
have you noticed that?
Yeah, since they passed it, the $2,000 just passed the House, but it's still got to go through the Senate. Well, they're already talking about you gonna go ahead and get your 600 tonight or tomorrow. So yeah, hey, we tired of hearing about COVID.
Yeah.
Tired of talking about this shit.
Everybody is tired of it. You can see it in everybody's eyes.
Hey, but yeah. Oh, real quick, shout out on YouTube, new subscriber Daniel Goldie. We have another subscriber.
Awesome. Hey, Daniel.
Thank you so much for subscribing on DLive. Shout out to Stevo83FXWG. Thanks for subscribing and tuning in. So yeah, tonight is going to be
all about the Shadowgate documentary.
Yeah, and it's just gonna expose a lot of things. I know some people have already seen it, but this was all before the election. So now after the election, let's see if we can put some pieces together and figure out where all this is going with all the information that we already have. Maybe we'll see some things we haven't seen before, and then we'll just talk about it. And then we got 2 more that are going to backdoor this. Shadowgate 3.0 is supposed to be coming out really soon as well. Yeah, that's supposed to be coming. So that should be exciting. Also, real quick, we are getting censored on YouTube. So if you're not watching us live, feel free to go to Bitchute. Okay, you can check us out there. You'll see everything that we have going on. Hang on, let me let you be able to see that. There you go. So you can check us out at Bitchute. News for Free America at basically all your social medias that you can think of. The only thing that we're not on is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Yeah, all the Facebook owned things.
Yeah.
We're basically not on any of those / Google besides YouTube.
Yeah. So you can catch all our episodes there. I upload them as fast as I can, but anyways, yeah, you can find everything on Bitchute.
So let's get into the documentary here.
Let's get into
Shadowgate, Millie Weaver.
Yeah, give me one.
Definitely
second.
interesting.
1 second.
Has anybody seen it already in the comments?
Yeah, if you've seen it, go ahead and throw a thumbs up. We're gonna go ahead and go through it, a little refresher, and just really do like a deep dive into it, and then like I said, 3.0 is supposed to be coming out here pretty soon as well.
What if I were to tell you that a small group of government contractors were hired by government officials to frame the Trump campaign, set him up for the Russia collusion investigation, provided witnesses for the impeachment hearings, and provided administrative support services to the Department of Justice during the Mueller investigation? And what if it just so happened that this same group of contractors...
Hey, what's going on, Ashley?
...fake news in mainstream...
Hey, Gary, Warby, how's everybody doing? Anybody on D-Live and Twitch, feel free to hop in the chat as well. Can everybody hear everything all right?
You mentioned shock value. That is shocking what the Russians did. I agree. We need to stop it.
I know that now based on the horrible truth.
I'm not saying that you lied to the court. I'm saying you signed something that was a lie and you didn't know.
Talk about a cover story. What really happened is much more alarming. Both parties are equally guilty of covering up what should turn out to be an even bigger scandal, Shadowgate. The tactical and operational role the shadow government played behind the scenes, carrying out the coup against President Trump. We're going to be looking behind the puppets at who the real puppet master string pullers are. The material presented in this documentary
you don't see a lot of
should
military in
concern
here.
people of all political affiliations. This is about real players, people whose names never come up but should. Career politicians are definitely part of the Beltway swamp, even aspects of the deep state, but they are not the shadow government. The shadow government consists of government contractors, defense, intelligence, security, and so on. Our government mostly consists of front-facing desk jockeys that are compartmentalized in cubicles. They're to cover
That's how you fact checkers, right there.
up for the fact that most of the real work is outsourced to contractors, aka the military-industrial complex. That way, what the public sees through FOIA requests, investigations, congressional hearings, or otherwise, is as clean as a whistle. All the dirty work is kept private, with contractors in clandestine networks. These contractors have used their connections, power, and influence to create an unprecedented international criminal enterprise where blackmail is traded and people's personal data is gold.
See, and this is how the government can get away with saying that they don't do certain things in hearings when they have to testify in front of Congress or the Senate or anything like that, and they're asked, are they spying on the population or doing certain things to the population? They can say no and not be lying because everything's done through contractors now. And I mean, if you know anything about Blackwater security company and what went on with them, and the corruption that goes on with Halliburton and DynCorp and all the rest of them, I mean, it's a money scheme. Oh.
It's very obvious, though, that the plan has been laid out the whole time. The story has already been planned. Everything that we see is a planned narrative. And exactly what we saw earlier in that video.
Yeah.
Plausible deniability.
Plausible deniability. Absolutely.
Tory and Patrick Berge, who both worked extensively within the shadow government as contractors, have come forward with revelations that may be part of the biggest whistleblowing event to date.
I'm one of thousands, faceless, patriotic Americans that work within the shadows and had been doing that for a very long time. People that worked for John Brennan approached me while I was in my specialist training while I was in the Navy. When I was recruited,
What moves has John Brennan been making since the election?
it was for electronic warfare. Then I ended up in information warfare, and ironically, the base that I first went to for electronic warfare is now information warfare.
Electronic warfare, information warfare, your Facebook, all your social medias.
My job for a company called Dynalogy was owned by Obama's National Security Advisor, General James Jones, and I answered directly to his son. I worked for them for about 8 years, from like 2007 to 2010. My focus was primarily in the development on a couple different contracts for the Department of Defense for the development of the capabilities for interactive internet activities, being something that helps support.
Ashley, you follow what is it, Tory's Stories or something like that?
Things like that, and information operations, which would be your actual influence operations, right? It's a supporting application that really, it's kind of like a Microsoft project, right? Which allows you to manage large projects, like enterprise level projects. But instead of like managing the building of the construction of a 14-story building, it's managing the most, malevolent operations that you could imagine.
I was a contractor for various intelligence agencies that were privately created. So they were private contracting agencies because unlike what most people think, our intelligence doesn't stay within our borders or within federal buildings.
And how much of that has come out now? We're seeing that with the voting machines and all our data.
The leaks of how many Chinese agents work for all of the corporations.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the information is not in our borders. It probably isn't even housed in our borders.
It's like American data is just for sale on the open market.
It's not like it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
ShadowNet was the commercial version.
ShadowNet, okay. Like, if anybody remembers Terminator, I mean, how do you not know Terminator, Skynet? Hello?
All the stuff they name it is so typical.
Of an IIA weapon, IIA being interactive internet activities. That's the military nomenclature for what basically you've heard just being described for the last 3 or 4 years with all the fake news and the fake news journalists and fake stories, fake dossier. All these things are attributes and characteristics of IIA, which is social media psychological warfare. We began that really in 2007.
Can you recognize a orchestrated news site? Like, have you been able to kind of see the pattern?
Yeah, like how these pop up NTD, Newsmax, OAN. I mean, OAN's been around for a hot minute, but NTD and some other ones, it's like this seems like a straight boomer channel.
And they all have the same format too.
Oh yeah, same format.
Layout, everything, colors.
Their people look the same, dress the same. Yeah.
When right after the policy guidelines first came out, we were on one of the first contracts with the DoD that I'm aware of, trying to help the Force Psychological Operations Group understand how to go from dropping flyers from planes to a more micro-targeted social media psychological warfare application where you could select an individual.
Yeah, and we've all seen the compilations of the newscasters all saying the exact same thing from all over the U.S.
What I did was something called localization, or L10N. So a localization strategy is you find a group of people, that could be a whole country, a city, a certain religious group, 6-block radius like Chaz, and you kind of try to get in their mind. You have to understand how they eat, how they walk, how they talk, what they like, what pushes their buttons, what drives them nuts, what upsets them, what makes them happy. And then you use that to your
Military
advantage
personnel,
to
retired
push
military
whatever
personnel, they're
ideology,
trying to.
product, or direction you want them to go. Marrying together cultural appropriation, language, nuances of the demographic that you are targeting or the nation you are targeting. It pries into your demographic, your world. So if I want to blackmail you and put you under my thumb, not only will I know everything, but I will know your deepest, darkest fears. I will know people I can get in contact to find out more about.
I'm definitely scared of spiders in my bed sheets. That's about it. What are you scared of? What's your deepest, darkest fear?
Catapulting off of a bridge in a car into
Water.
a body of water. That's my deepest, darkest fear.
What's your deepest, darkest fears? Throw it in the chat. So that way the alphabet boys can go ahead and know.
About you.
No.
Maybe you had like an old hockey injury. So if I wanted to attack you, I'd know where to hit you.
You understand enough about someone, and you can hack their shadow, right? You can.
Was that DCAT?
Use,
I
you
need
can
Google
you can
Translate.
use their
Yeah, I need Google
fears,
Translate
you
for
can
that
use
shit.
their anxieties. Sounds
By
like
being
like
president?
pandemics.
Oh, no. You got your
Recognize it.
request.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So
It's
you can
coming.
use those things to help reflexively control or influence a target, an individual, or whoever it is, right? Or a group of people, or an entire election, an entire country.
What Patrick Berge created was
Yeah.
a program that was based off of the strategies that we used in person. It was a psychological operation, but that crunches data with the use of psychological operations. So you can predict how your target will respond.
You know, I spent like 7 years overseas, right? Several years.
Like you don't have to. This was actually in Mr. Robot, and I think in Ocean's 11 as well. How it was actually easier to hack people than it is to hack like a data center or credit card companies or something like that. It's easier to hack a person, meaning just psychological warfare on one particular individual in order to get
into-
access to what you need.
That definitely is a very smart way to think about it.
Definitely.
Every person is corruptible.
Nice shelter, by the way.
A couple of those years were specifically related to IIA. So I understood certain things.
When we hijacked the Afghan elections, how did we do that? We had to understand how the Afghanis think. We had to go to the areas that were anti-Taliban because the Taliban political group was now more militant than it was political. We used that to our advantage and formed a plan where we would sway their thoughts to believe that XYZ candidate is the way to go, because then you won't get robbed and we'll tame the Taliban. But we had to do it in their way. So he created an algorithm that does that for you.
When we were largely doing this, it was done by analysts. Now this is more done automated through.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, repeat a lie enough times, it
just
becomes
another
truth.
Iteration of the program or application development process. The database component ends up allowing you to build behavioral profiles on individual targets, right? And through those behavioral profiles, you can develop or implement reflexive control,
And
which allows you to understand.
the only way that they know how to do this, the only way they created the algorithm is by collecting all the data
Really good.
that was probably sold to them.
Yeah, I mean, all the apps that are free on your phone, they're free because you are what's
Give
being
them
sold.
permission to access everything
Yeah.
on your phone just to smash some blocks,
Yeah.
you know?
But Jim sent him a bogus, just a made up, ridiculous bid to actually do that, because if it went on a classified network, we couldn't turn around and sell it commercially. We went on after that to another contract in Tampa, took everything with us. Force Psychological Operations Group had no idea that we were going to be taking their year's worth of work that they paid us to do, the taxpayers paid us to do, and we kept the intellectual property rights to it and remarketed it, branded it.
Hell, most of the time it doesn't even take a week. Usually it's the same day, within hours, or even just talking to somebody in a conversation. You know, you don't even Google it. You just talk to people about something in a conversation that's something that you might want, and all you see is ads on your phone for it.
This technology
that'll be the
was
next
so
Netflix documentary, how they target us with the microphone.
commercially and have the power to affect outcomes of elections at home. The commercial and black market value of such a technology is incalculable.
This is the Mobile Mega Shatternet Mobile. My laptop sits in here.
Here you go, Gary. Check this
And I
out.
got two 4K capture cards. I can do BTC. And this charges all the camera equipment. So while I'm riding, I'm told I'm getting as much as 40 amps. These are the same cases that we used to build out our skips, our SC2 IPs, which is a small command and control over IP. And when I was working with JCSE, we would take these cases and build out networks. This is a small command and control over IP. It's just only running on one unclassified network, SIM-enabled Wi-Fi router, and if I get decent cell connection, then I can run the multiple cameras.
Now I'm about to go in the settings on all my apps, Barbie, and make sure my microphone's off.
I can run all that from my cell phone that I have mounted here.
The group of whistleblowers from the NSA and other classified data collection agencies, referred to as the Global Surveillance Whistleblowers, were used as a vector to legalize what was then illegal dragnet spying on everyone 24/7.
The NSA and its former head, General Hayden, declined to comment for this story.
The FISA Amendment Act of 2008 had Section 702 that permitted the government to spy on citizens with a warrant from the Foreign Intelligence.
Yo, that was one of the first phones I ever had, or my mom had. It was a Nokia StarTech with the black and green screen, flip phone with the pull-out antenna.
However,
Yes, man. And the battery was on the front.
they could privatize it. Imagine what you could do with that. Tori alleges that she worked for John Brennan at the Analysis Corporation and Global Strategies Group. What is the Analysis Corporation?
It is a company that does a lot of things, varied from administrative work to analyses to data collection, biometric collection. I mean, whatever contract they've been awarded by the government, they do. Could be something as simple as...
Yo, the Nextel phones with the walkie-talkie chirp. That was the shit back in the day.
Where you at? You remember the commercial? Where you at?
Where you at?
To his passport files. One incident this past summer where there was a trainee.
Yeah, my
who had
one of my dad's or my one of my mom's boyfriends had a car phone in his Chevy Camaro IROC Z.
Earlier this year, one of the same people who accessed Senator Obama's passport file also accessed Senator McCain's passport file. This is the same individual who was disciplined, but at this point in time still remains working with the contractor.
She claims to be the actual person who moved the electronic files at Stanley Inc. and CGI in 2008, which publicly was falsely alleged to be a hack. What?
Yo, like that's key right there. Like, she goes and removes stuff and does things on hard drives with just little thumbstick USB drives, taking information, putting information on, and then they just shadow it as a hack, blame it as a hack.
What can you tell us about the
When it's really
CGI
just
Stanley
information
passport
transfer.
incident?
See, Brennan has a certain MO, okay? When he wants to get something, he pretends there's a hack.
Pay attention.
So I was asked when I was stateside, hey, would you go by that office and pull all this data from the State Department? And I said, of course I will. I put it on 2 rugged drives. You know, they were like the orange tips, really big, you know, drives. And I put it on there. And then later, it's like, oh, they were hacked. And I'm thinking, I didn't hack anything. I was told to do it. So I just kind of watched what was happening. One person actually, committed suicide or something.
Like, there's so many contractors that they can just tell what to do, and they'll be like, oh, yeah, sure, no problem. Oh, yeah, you need me to go do this, do that? Yeah. And they don't think twice about it, right? They don't know they don't realize that they're being told to go do something, so it's a sleight of hand. It's a distraction.
Yeah.
You know, man, it's a cat and mouse game out here.
Everything is also decompartmentalized, like
yes. Or compartmentalized.
Compartmentalized.
Yeah.
Thing, and the other 2 were found. I'm like, but there was no hack, and that's a going theme. You know that, right?
Wow. If it wasn't a hack, I'm presuming that means you took the information off of their servers and computers.
Correct.
So that information was then missing.
Correct.
What would be the point of that? What were they trying to hide?
Well, if I removed it, that means someone else was there to replace it.
Hello.
Right? So I remove the actual information, and then someone goes behind. That's like super switch. I didn't see that until in retrospect, right? Because for me, going to copy a server off of a consulate, you know, computer, State Department, wherever, would be normal if we had a contract.
Normal, just to be out there copying hard drives. Just removing shit off of hard drives from government servers. Just normal.
Yeah. They have no idea what they're doing.
And this is your tax dollars. This is what your tax dollars pay.
Paying a private contractor for blind espionage, basically.
Yeah. No shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Pay the piper.
With them, they would tell me what terminal, I'd scan the barcode, make sure that I was at the right computer, and do my job. So I remove data, that means someone else replaced it.
So what is the relationship between Global Strategies Group, Analysis Corporation, and Canadian Global Information?
They all do the same thing. They're the jacks of all trades, except for the fact that Global Strategies Group was actually a hub for all information in and out.
Go find these companies on LinkedIn.
All of the directors there were former GCHQ, CIA, NSA, you know, MI6, MI5, German intelligence. You have to wonder, why are all these former heads heading up consulting firm? And what were they consulting? And they weren't consulting. They were collecting everybody's data and privatizing it.
John Brennan, working within his network of contracting companies such as Stanley, Canadian Global Information, and the Analysis Corporation, helped then Senator Barack.
We gotta find that documentary of that that chick that was on Tinder.
Yeah.
I mean, just from one app.
How many pages the report was?
Yeah, I think it was like 13,000 pages.
It was ridiculous.
Of data that Tinder had on this one woman. And they could predict everything from one app. Now link all those apps together, along with your GPS and your microphone and everything else.
Yeah. Oh yeah, your GPS, it knows your routine.
Yeah, and you don't even have to have it on.
Welcome back to
And I think
the
MSNBC.
laundromat.
Yeah, I think MSNBC, some mainstream news channel, did a test on turning the GPS off, turning the cellular data off, turning airplane mode on, all that stuff. And it didn't matter.
Ew.
You still ping towers. Actually, when you turn airplane mode on, it pinged the towers more often, and they could actually tell when you were walking. between walking and driving with airplane mode on.
Barack Obama get elected using internet influence operations. March 5th, 2013, Brennan gets confirmed as CIA director, dodging controversy over his involvement in the CIA enhanced interrogation scandal. Now tell us about these data bridges to the NSA. Is that legally obtained information?
I mean, that's kind of what Snowden did too.
According to sources closely connected to this subject, under John Brennan's direction, Snowden created a data bridge from the NSA database into private servers controlled by private intelligence and cybersecurity contractors, aka the Analysis
Twin towers, 5G towers,
Global
4G
Strategies
towers.
Group, and Canadian Global
I noticed a lot of
trees.
ravens sitting on those towers too.
That's
pretty weird.
Crazy. To think
Because a lot of these companies, their logo is Raven.
Phone calls, messages,
Really?
emojis, Instagrams,
I didn't know
tweets,
that.
anything you can imagine that's being uploaded that has to go into like the 72-hour holding is suddenly being pushed offshore. That sounds kind of illegal because it is.
June 5th, 2013. Edward Snowden goes public with the NSA program PRISM, revealing the NSA collects internet traffic of all U.S. citizens from major internet and telecom companies through the FISA 702 program. Snowden's actions kicked off, on the federal level, justification for spying on U.S. citizens, including the Senate and Congress, in the name of preventing U.S. citizens with classified or top-secret clearances from being able to repeat Snowden's actions. This opened the door for the creation of ClearForce. July 4th, 2013, CGI and GCHQ launch a defense protection partnership which includes sharing threat intelligence. So these were all private corporations that even had foreigners working in them, and they had access to NSA servers?
Of course they did. I mean, how do you think we found, through facial recognition of the FBI, the Belgian bomber? Why would we have their facial recognition data?
So, is this legal, what you're telling me, and
Good question.
why would they do it? Why would they set this up this way?
So sharing our information and our private identifying information, facial recognition, biometrics, outside of the United States for official purposes, like at a consulate, at an embassy, through Secret Service or anything like that, is legal, right? Or through Interpol. But to have a company that houses everybody's data and any private person can buy that data or investigate that data or analyze that data, that's not. And that's exactly what GSG was doing.
Early 2009, John Brennan left government and went to work for a small intelligence contractor here in the Virginia area, suburban Virginia area, just outside of Washington. The company was called the Analysis Corporation. There are subsidiaries of subsidiaries. Some of these companies are spun out, go public, go private again. It's kind of hard to keep track of them.
In just 4 months, GSG, CGI, and other private contractors allegedly had unauthorized access to the entire Five Eyes network, unfiltered, unrestricted, decompartmentalized, outside any government regulation or oversight. Not
See, we've been
surprising,
hearing a lot about the
CIA
Five
gets caught
Eyes and
1 year later,
then all these
spying
hacks by
on
China and everything
their
else. And this came out right before the elections.
They had
And
set
now
up
look how the
Senate
news is reporting everything.
So they had authorization.
Would you agree that the CIA's 2014 search of Senate files was improper?
This is the annual threat assessment, is it not? Yes. These were CIA computers at a CIA leased facility. It was a CIA network that was shared between Senate staffers conducting that
He looks
investigation
terrifying.
report.
He
as
looks
well
like
as
he
CIA
tortures
personnel.
people on a daily
Reality
basis.
is those computers, in effect, belonged to the CIA, but they were reserved exclusively for the committee's use.
We accelerated our ability our, for want of a better word, invasiveness into communications networks in which legitimate targets coexisted with legitimately protected communications.
Obama takes office, and General Jones is being sworn in.
They all lie. That's all they do. All day long. Every time their lips move, they lie.
Copyrights. CKMS, Congressional Knowledge Management System. Within a couple months after he leaves office in 2010, Dynology gets a contract for CKMS, the Congressional Knowledge Management System, which basically controls all of the scheduling, the addresses, the documents, everything for the Congress. CKMS is going to give you access to unlimited information. Think about the information you could get from that.
If we look on usspending.gov, we see Dynology was awarded contracts for the Congressional Knowledge Management System. However, one contract stands out, where Dynology was awarded a contract by the Department of Defense that includes a mention of the Congressional Knowledge Management System. A closer look shows that the award description is for CKMS hosting labor, admin, core data. The primary place of performance is Germany, and the North American industry class.
Where were all those Dominion servers held at? In Germany?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Never heard about that.
Man, everything's starting to click now, ain't it?
Use outside the United States. Let it sink in that these official documents suggest the Congressional Knowledge Management System, outsourced to a private contractor, is hosted, managed, and stored in servers in Germany. This is very disturbing. With the Senate's computer network compromised by John Brennan's CIA and the Congressional Knowledge Management System being hosted, managed, and stored overseas by General Jones's company, the ability for these contractors to eavesdrop on both the House and the Senate is staggering.
When I brought this up back in 2018,
So how they're keeping track on the Congress and the Senate, eavesdropping on them and stuff like that, and then, okay, during this whole contested election, you keep hearing these governmental employees, Congress and Senate, saying that they've been threatened and all this other type of stuff, and then you start seeing these mysterious deaths of people that are close to these government officials, and man, rewatching this is now post-election. It's like it's a whole nother eye-opening experience. It was an eye-opening experience the first time watching this, and now watching it before the election, watching it after. It's like, wow.
Shortly after that, Dynology lost the contract that they had had since 2011, 2012 with CKMS. And that contract went to another company, a company that exists as nothing more than a website and a mail drop, mile or so from Dynology's Tampa office, controlling the entire Congressional's knowledge management.
And if you look at the contracting database, they'll say that, oh, they have an American entity. And it's like, but it's the same CEOs for this Canadian company. I'm so confused. So they even falsify information. So they can obfuscate where our federal tax dollars are going. And don't forget, they all share contracts. They all subcontract, co-contract.
Psy Group has the exact same product.
George Carlin said it best. It's one big fucking club, and we're not in it.
As Dynology, the ShadowNet, and iSci, right? Yet, the owner of Dynology sits on the board of directors of Psy Group, which in my opinion is kind of like the owner of Coke sitting on the board of directors of Pepsi.
TAC, CGI, and all these LLCs that just keep cycling and cycling, all of them.
The Social Security numbers of 19.7 million Americans subjected to federal background checks as a condition of employment are now in the hands of hackers.
In June 2015,
Say it
the
ain't
Office
so.
of Personnel Management announced a major data breach. Tell us about the OPM hack.
Okay, so that's another Brennan job. So another hack, supposed hack. And this is to obtain, delete, and obfuscate information.
So, if they use the term hack to cover up things, what were all these so-called hacks of DOD, the nuclear program, Department of Homeland Security? Is it to leverage dirt against people in power in those positions under those agencies to make sure Biden is in on the 20th, or make sure that they toe the line? Like, what the fuck's going on?
Hillary Clinton was up for the chopping block about her emails right at the State Department. And that was coming up. That was big talk of the town in 2014. Suddenly, the Office of Personnel Management was hacked in December. Down the line, 5 months later, Hillary Clinton appears in court, and they tell her, hey, you're going to hand over your emails. A couple days after that, the now fired, corrupt, leaking former IG of the State Department, Linick, had requested from our elected officials to give him a big fat budget to create his own personal IG of the State Department server.
How convenient.
Very convenient.
While we have no evidence that our data has been compromised, the fact that the contents of our network may be accessed by large numbers of department administrators puts us at unnecessary risk. The IT folks at the department have the keys to our IT system. So they really have access, unfettered access to the system if they wanted to. They could read, modify, delete. They could read, modify, delete. I would like to be completely separate from the department to ensure the integrity of our system, but I also need the department to give us access.
So there was government agencies that knew that their systems were vulnerable to the government contractors, but yet we had the most secure elections in U.S. history.
Yeah, the people that they hired, which, I mean, why don't they have in-house people to take care of this who are under? But, I mean, you can't shuffle around money if you don't constantly spend money out.
Right.
So you can't, mix a contractor in that might be your friend that might not be doing any work in with all the other contractors if you don't have any of that kind of. I guess I get it.
To the same systems that we have now. Give us access.
And he was responsible in releasing her emails that he gave in little doses, of course, over time. But at the same time, the press came out with a report. Oh dear, months ago, there was a leak.
Do you have evidence that the State Department's network has been attacked? And does that affect you guys?
There's evidence that has been attacked and it has affected us. I can't really go into details because of the nature of the information.
For people that don't know, the Office of Personnel Management usually has information on every single American that has applied for any type of clearance. So if you applied for like a White House press pass or joined the military or an admin job that could require something like a public Charlie clearance, anything, all your information is there.
What could they do with all that information?
Right. They started slowly creating these memorandums of understandings with your secretaries of states and attorney generals secretly behind your back, providing facial recognition data, private identifying data. This was the most incredible data, because if you want to control someone, all you need to do is put that information through a couple of systems and you'll know exactly what buttons you need to push and how to make them nod their head the way you want them to or shake it.
Millions of Americans
Or
have
be a
received
patsy.
letters like this, notifying them their data are at risk and referring them to a government-contracted credit monitoring agency.
Does this correlate with predictive programming?
Yes.
The merging of John Brennan's tactical intelligence and General Jones's operational capabilities gave birth to ClearForce.
ISI was the relational database component of it.
I mean, these are the highest ranked generals in our military.
What did you name it ISI for?
I like the iPhone, Psi for psychological warfare.
Okay.
you have the component where you need to be able to collect all this information, and then you need to be able to collaborate this information with a team of an unspecified amount of analysts and or other legal people that will be looking at stuff. And you need to be able to provide the leadership of a tactical operation. You need to be able to provide them what's called a COPS, a common operational picture, right? So this provides people at the top common operational picture of all the different assets. Assets can be journalists, it could be an entire news organization, it could be a podcast, it could be just an individual YouTube influencer, it could be anybody like that. And you would either build them from scratch or contract them out, just bring them online.
According to Berge, the 2012 changes to the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2012 opened the floodgates for domestic IIA, social media influence operations. Do you think that some of these smart devices were created?
I think the Q movement came about.
Gain access to the public by the military-industrial complex?
I know that the iPhone really was released within this, if not the same month of the IIA policy letter, right? I know for a fact, and you can easily look it up, that the Smith-Mundt Act, Modernization Act, was modified to allow for the influence, dissemination of propaganda to Americans, which had previously been restricted or prevented by the Smith-Mundt Act in the late 40s when it was put into place. When they modernized that, they took away those protections, allowing it to adapt for social media, and then within a few months or just a very short period of time, they came out with the Obama phone.
Everybody in Cleveland, low minority, got Obama phone. Keep Obama in president, you know? He gave us a phone.
Free cell phones to low-income families.
I love her raspy voice.
Volunteer state called SafeLink Wireless. More than 800,000
Obama phone
qualify for these phones. The company says this program is about providing a safe link for families no matter what their level of income is.
Very short time after that, they added free unlimited data plans to them.
He also suggested that the contiguous release of the Obama phone with an unlimited data plan played a significant role in fostering the
Borby, no, I don't have it on there, but I can put the link on there. It's no big deal. Or you can, yeah, I'll put the link on there.
So why do you think they were targeting them for collection purposes?
Think of what you could do, right? Think of how easily you could start a riot in Cleveland if you had the
I remember that too, Ashley.
data.
My father-in-law actually sold those phones to people. Not sold them, gave them away rather. And you get paid $5 per phone.
Do you think that they were pushing information to them?
At least that's what it was in Texas.
Tailoring their viewpoint on social media? Even?
I would. And when like I said, I didn't really actually finish this earlier, but I originally, in 2014, I recognized Black Lives Matter movement during the Michael Brown riots as being influenced by IIA. A colleague of mine in South Korea did a trace route on it, trace routed the source of the what I believe to have been IIA to Ukraine. That's funny, right? So, because Ukraine just always keeps popping up. And whether or not it was actually the ShadowNet itself, or it was a competitor like McChrystal, right? McChrystal, what they accused McChrystal of having is the exact same thing as what we built before him. Maybe it was a competitor. Who knows? It's becoming really a boutique market.
Do you think that many of these social media companies like Twitter, Facebook, that they were created?
A boutique market, like we're out here selling Gucci and Fendi of data.
With IIA operations in mind, and it was never intended to be a free speech platform. I mean, what's your take on that?
In our ShadowNet flyer, it has a screenshot of South American social network site that was kind of like the predecessor for MySpace, owned by Google. And I believe the name was Urkut. And you can actually look on our flyer and see a screenshot from that, which looks like an active engagement from South America. Now, if you look up what happened to Urkut, what was really Google's first attempt pre-MySpace, you'll see that it was largely shut down and largely contributed to an overwhelming use of fake personas, right? What was one of the reasons that they attributed to MySpace shutting down last year? Rampant fake personas. At the same time, I'm developing...
Yeah, Borby, they scrubbed this documentary from a lot of video channels.
At the same time I'm doing that, our number one...
So we'll send you the link and you can share it.
Doesn't have a product that is only sales.
We'll give you all the links to what we're going to be showing, so you can share it with everybody.
John McCain's campaign.
Too risky.
Doing micro-targeted social media for John McCain's campaign.
I'm John McCain, and I approve this message.
You were speaking on news pundits and how many of the news
and with the phones, Ashley, it's kind of the same way with the 5G towers. I mean, I noticed the 5G towers popping up in the hoods first before I saw them anywhere else. So that's just where I was seeing them at.
Towering figure
Where were you seeing them at first?
policy, an extended member of the NBC News
definitely lower income areas.
Jimmy Carter's national security advisor.
Jillian Turner, Fox News host, was also vice president of Jones Group International, doing an interview with her old boss and my old boss. Now, why would I assume that they would be using anything other than the ShadowNet? Because the owner of the ShadowNet has so many key assets. Why would he need to go to anybody else, right? So they get their talking points from the analysts that are putting it together, but then they disseminate those talking points through non-attribution to their assets throughout these news organizations, utilizing...
Project Veritas is exposing a lot of this too with the CNN recorded phone calls.
Direct connection to Atlantic Council. General Jones was the chairman of the board of the Atlantic Council. JGI, Jones Group International, is an oil lobby. Atlantic Council and Burisma has a relationship. Burisma is an energy company. Obviously, they have these connections.
This would explain why Fox News focuses mostly on the Biden-Ukraine scandal, never mentioning Jones's connections, nor the Atlantic Council. Trump focusing on Ukraine isn't just about Biden. It's about Jones, Hayden, Brennan, McChrystal, the State Department, USAID, and corrupt inspector generals. With everything in place, and after being in control of the office of the presidency for decades, the military-industrial complex had confidence they could take Trump out as a candidate or even as president. Has IIA been used against...
This documentary makes a lot more sense post-election.
Oh, yeah.
There are so many people, former colleagues of mine, directly connected to the ShadowNet.
Yo, and what's crazy is, okay, so these guys are in ShadowNet. Did he not just pardon Manafort, Gates, Stone, Roger Stone?
Yes.
I think Rick Tavis as well. And these are the people that are trying to fucking take him down. I mean, supposedly...
Well, if it's blackmail,
yeah,
he's paying the price.
Man.
If he's a puppet, this is confirmed.
Yeah, this shit makes way... It's crazier now because he just pardoned these people. Wow. The fuck?
John McCain and Lindsey Graham, one of the last two people to have their hands on the Russian dossier before it was handed off to BuzzFeed as part of the dissemination process.
Told the president it was not John McCain. I know because John McCain showed me the dossier.
It was built, it was a product, it was used as a weapon as part of an influence operation. It was fake information put into it to help create chaos and to influence an election. Bottom line, right? But those people that were directly involved with that were also directly involved with the ShadowNet.
So, you have knowledge of them using military-grade psychological warfare weapons on the President of the United States.
done by the closest people around him, too.
As Trump's election unfolded, and as all of the Russia collusion and all these things started happening and becoming exposed, revealed to me it was to keep from exposing the stuff that they've been doing over here, which I believe includes the Maidan massacre in Ukraine.
Where did the dossier come from? Nellie Orr testified it came from Ukraine. Where's all the money laundering and crazy IIAs we see going on? Ukraine.
So Manafort's being accused of social media influence operations in Ukraine in 2010. World courts charged him.
Oh yeah, you're not allowed to say that
Ukraine
name
was the epicenter of everything.
on YouTube, or you'll be banned immediately.
And made them deal to us. Barack Hussein Obama did it. You know, we deployed troops, National Guard, of course. And what states are the ones that work with Ukraine? It would be California and New York. So we deployed troops there because, you know, they weren't listening. It's like, why would you want to stay independent and hang out with the Russians when you can be with us, the Americans and the Europeans? And they were really upset that they weren't willing to commit to receive debt from the EU and ignore Russia, which they had been attached to for eons. So we went in there and destroyed them. That's how Hunter...
It's what crazy, like a lot of these wars are over debt, like refusing to take money from other countries, like bribes and shit like that. It's like the same thing that the cartel does. Plata o plomo, silver or lead. You take the bribe, or we kill you. It's crazy. No, not you, Ashley. Like, you can type it, but according to some other very large podcasters on YouTube, you cannot say his name on YouTube, or you will immediately be banned.
Outsource companies for elections with regular electronic voting machine problems, who also tabulate our election results in cloud services in Europe, aka servers outside the...
Wait, hold up. That was Seidel. They just raided that place too. Seidel, Dominion, all these places were in Germany. She's sitting here screaming about it before the election even took place.
Source companies for elections with regular electronic voting machine problems, who also tabulate our election results in cloud services in Europe, aka servers outside the United States. A whistleblower leaked to me in 2019 internal documents from Seidel that appeared to show meddling in the Kentucky election.
Atlantic Council has been citing America's policies for decades now. And look at what a panic they were in when Trump made that phone call to Ukraine. They went into absolute panic mode. 75% of the people testifying were all directly connected to General Jones, McCain, and Atlantic Council.
The now IG of the NSA, literally with his wife, created the National Anti-Corruption Bureau in the Ukraine in 2009. They created it.
Robert Storch is the deputy head of the U.S. Inspector General's...
The most corrupt people are creating anti-corruption groups to hide their corruption.
Just like the UN Council on Human Rights.
Yeah, it's run by China.
And it's the summit is being held in Saudi Arabia, of all places.
Yeah, because they're super
definitely fair,
inclusive of all beliefs.
Democratic nation.
I mean, they supposedly had the first Jewish celebration ever allowed in Saudi Arabia this year, but still don't allow homosexuality.
A presidential appointment rather than an appointment by the director of the NSA. November 30th, 2016, Obama nominates Robert Storch, who was working as deputy IG of the DOJ under Horowitz at the same time.
I'm Rob Storch, and I'm honored to serve as the Inspector General at the National Security Agency.
During the transition period from the Obama administration into the Trump administration. Storch appears to never have actually been confirmed by the Trump administration.
How did this guy get confirmed? Not one person asked, hey, have you ever worked for... I mean, a couple months before they even had the hearing to see if he's going to be confirmed or not, nobody asked him, hey, did you by any chance get an offer from the president of Ukraine to work for them? It was all over the media, but not one person asked. You know who else helped them set it up? Bill Taylor and George Kent, those two clowns, also testified against the president. One of them has supersonic hearing. They could hear phones that are not on speakerphone from across the room. So
that's odd. According to Tory, the alleged impeachment whistleblower was actually a wiretap, hence supersonic hearing capabilities. Eric Ciaramella was a decoy to hide the fact that the president was being wiretapped through a 702 data over-collection problem connected to the Sunset Clause. Collection problem that the NSA Inspector General Robert Storch
This is being shamed
oversaw.
and fair use
The
act.
question is, what has been the Senate Intelligence Committee? All complacent, every single one of them. Because it's their job to be our voice and ask those questions.
So I mean, I
that's
guess
because they're in on it.
So I guess the question is, are they all just that inept? Or is there something else going on? Section 702 of the FISA Amendment Act of 2008 was created to stop illegal surveillance through data collection. It ends up being used as cover, providing the intelligence agencies front-facing legal access to unauthorized data, while turning a blind eye to private contractors having backdoor access to all data.
I had access through the administrative side platform, because I was one of the first on it, to be able to see all communications between people like Adam Schiff.
There's quite a few people
Brennan,
that have tweeted or made comments about that keystone.
General Jones.
Or made references to the
Many
keystone.
more that I don't want to say because I haven't publicized that yet, actually. Because there's foreign people. I did see communications of former GCHQ head Hannigan. And Robert Hannigan was part of the company at GSG, right? So I gave most of this information to Millie Weaver, and she put out a report. And even though I had legal access to all their communications, because I had my username and password, the minute she did that report, within just, I believe, almost instantaneously, the website was taken down and my access was revoked. They changed it. Well, it wasn't revoked. They just upheld the whole server. It was done. It was finished. They made it toast. I mean, that's what they do. But nothing ever really dies, really. Because the way they use their servers is by torrents. So all their information is hidden somewhere across the planet. Maybe we should look at some old articles that I put out on Hurricane Electric to find those servers and those little bits and seed them correctly. So, I mean, you'd be able to seed it with something like a keystone.
So for people that have been trying to hide on the Tor network or anything like that, they can use a nice little program called Hurricane Electric to find all the little tidbits of information left on different servers and piece it all together.
Blackmail collected on any politicians?
You mean that I've seen?
Yes.
A lot of people. Yes.
And politicians?
Yes.
So would you say there's any side more Democrats or more Republican, or is it kind of even?
Very even, Steven.
Okay, so once this blackmail was collected on politicians, what did they do with it?
Even Pelosi doesn't know that what they have on her. Neither does Blumenthal. Nobody. I can keep going down.
But do they know that these people have blackmail on them?
Only if they've butted heads.
Okay.
So we saw a butting of heads between Murkowski, was it, and Feinstein, right? That's a butting of heads. That's where it's like, hey, we got this. You know where she put her up against the wall? It happens all the time.
Now you know how our government has been compromised. 24/7 surveillance mixed with blackmail. What's the significance of Cambridge Analytica being attached to Trump's campaign?
Everything that I saw with the description of like how
Everything has a lot more clarity
what they did
after watching this.
The computer applications, everything that I saw with that, I would describe as just a later iteration of the ShadowNet.
Was Cambridge Analytica, to your knowledge, an IAA operation?
Yes, it was. And I believe that it was so blatant because it was piloted at the same time that the RNC and the DNC were hacked. It was all formulated correctly.
I've said to you, it's all coming out, and the question is how.
I didn't conspire to leak Hillary's emails, and I have nothing to do with Russia. So
This is the documentary that we were talking about a few nights ago.
It looks like I did both.
The Great Hack.
If I wasn't me, I would say yes, that's what it looks like. I was part of the team running Obama's Facebook. We invented the way social media is used to communicate with voters.
This is how they were going to do it. You know, they were supposed to go in, they were supposed to sway him, because they were supposed to give up the goods to match the Russia hack.
Why would they be running an IAA operation that would be helping Trump win? Because that doesn't make sense when we know that General Jones is a Democrat and many of these people don't like Trump. So what gives?
Well, because then we just make it look like Russia was running the Cambridge Analytica program too.
And it admits to it right here. I am headed to Washington, D.C. for my testimony for the Mueller investigation. I definitely didn't think that while we're sitting there counting votes that...
Did anybody watch this documentary, The Great Hack? If you did, put a thumbs up in the chat.
News story is paid for by Russia on their Facebook page.
So not only did they hack the DNC and the RNC, but nobody talks about that, right? Because we're only supposed to focus that Russia was hacking just the DNC, not the RNC. Keep forgetting about that. Because it was just information Brennan was gaining. They wanted to get access to servers. That's the way it goes. Anyway.
So they're saying that Netflix documentary was an operation.
The Russia collusion hoax would have stuck better because behind all those LLCs and the glitz and glamour, they would have had some statue of Vladimir Putin in a tutu waiting for you.
Yeah, I worked at Cambridge Analytica while they had Facebook data sets. Went to Russia one time while I worked for Cambridge. I visited Julian Assange while I worked for Cambridge. Pitched the Trump campaign and wrote the first contracts. I have an email from one of our senior data scientists that said that we were actually using Facebook-like data in our models.
So you on the up and up, Ashley? So you done seen this documentary and the Great Hack too? That's good.
Well done, Britt. Looked quite tough, and you did okay with a winky face. Little emoji.
When we found out that Cambridge Analytica reached out to WikiLeaks and said, hey, can we help? What that means
Oh, I love Rachel Maddow. She makes me so happy.
underway to illegally influence the U.S. election in Trump's favor. And we've got the data firm paid by the Trump campaign offering operational help to that effort.
Are there any ties between Mr. Trump, you or your campaign, and Putin and his regime?
No, there are not. It's absurd, and there's no basis to it.
Cambridge Analytica was used to create the appearance that Russia conducted influence operations to help Trump win the 2016 election.
Stone, Manafort,
So this was all a part of the Steele dossier
all of these people
for the Russia
have
collusion
been
shit.
doing this for, to my knowledge, a decade of my personal fact witness knowledge. They've been doing this for a decade prior to Trump even running for office. I met with Roger Stone.
A decade prior to Trump, so that's 2016, so 2006.
Are you, did you work with, do you know Jim Jones? did you work with Dynology? And he acknowledged his relationship, and it's, yeah, sure. I did ask, I asked him flat out, I said, did you use the shadow net? Did you know about it? He's like, no.
Stone, leaving the Trump campaign early on, suggests candidate Trump didn't want his campaign tied to Stone's influence operations.
We really pioneered negative campaign advertising.
Stone does have a reputation.
So even though Stone and Trump are supposedly friends, Trump didn't want to be a part of Stone's little operation that he had going to help Trump.
Stone go way back, like from the 80s. You know, like, come on. These people have been through everything together.
No, I don't think I've seen the ones from Epoch Times.
Targeted them. And this is why they went on Manafort for things that were like ancient.
You'd have to tell me which one you're talking about. I do try to look at that daily.
Come on, man, seriously?
Send us the links.
Wikistrat's absolutely connected to the ShadowNet through the owners of the ShadowNet, through the fact that Psy Group, through Paul Manafort, submitted a proposal to Trump's campaign. Now, Trump's campaign rejected the proposal. I love that man, right? That's why I keep voting for him. Because even when he's given the opportunity to do that, he rejected it.
The Trump campaign must have known the Dems would try to use anything against them. Trump must have sensed that the offer for influence operations was a honey trap to set him up. Well, do you think that the reason they attached Manafort to Trump's campaign, because that was kind of later, right? They attached him onto there. Do you think it's because they were trying to frame up Trump?
Yes, because they failed with their IAA attempt.
Yeah, I definitely would say that Manafort was an asset. Whether or not he fully understood what his role was.
What's so crazy is watching this now after Trump just pardoned these motherfuckers. That's crazy.
To throw him under the bus, because two things had to happen. They could not let Hillary win, and they could not let Trump keep his seat. Right? So they were trying to kill two birds with one stone, using Manafort to make sure that Hillary doesn't win through IIA, through Wikistrat, through his connections there, and then those same people turning around, throwing him under the bus by somebody who had previously worked with Manafort and understood what he had been doing and what he was doing, and used that to exploit him as a way to hurt Trump.
Since their whole attempt to have him employ a company to help him win and use these psychological operations that the left was using, I mean, they're doing it, we should do it, and he didn't.
And that's in the Mueller report. That's in the New York Times. There are several instances where he's rejected the opportunity to take advantage of influence operations, be it IIA supported or just your standard run-of-the-mill influence operations, right? They've rejected that.
And the thing is, people like Roger Stone aren't saints, but they're not demons either. They skirt the outs, and they're great at what they do. And, you know, you either love him or not. It's like brie cheese. But the one thing that you can be sure of is that
just like Trump with his taxes, he skirts the ins and outs. He uses the system.
Like he was with President Trump. There's no way he's going to flip on you to save his butt. Ever. Because that's what honest people do.
Yeah, he seems to know how the games in the swamp are played.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, he knows how they operate.
It was actually framed by people that he worked with. I mean, that software was created, you know, by his friend that created the Magic Wheel software, like implemented ShadowNet for the courts so they can...
No friends amongst thieves.
...have such specified, you know, out of millions of people that were in the pool, they were all like intelligence contractors and never Trumpers. Come on.
So why wouldn't they just focus their efforts on running IAA operations to get Hillary in office?
Oh, they did. Are you kidding? They deployed everything from censoring, shadow banning, to dismissals, to full-blown mockingbirds. I mean, that's where we saw the real face of the press. That is exactly where we saw it. You know,
I want all of you to know that that's true not only for the campaign, but if I am fortunate enough to be your president, I want you to know. And
Could you imagine the state of this country if she would have been president? And
they couldn't even put an algorithm in the machine to make her president. That's how much people did not want her to be president.
could you imagine what she would have done though with a pandemic?
Oh my God.
That was an IIA. That was hijack your reality to think she's already won, so obviously she's the best. All the superstars coming out, how she's amazing, all these concerts, and all to divert you away from the fact that she couldn't walk, talk, climb stairs.
Actually, we'd appreciate it if you'd use a barf bag, and please don't throw up on the floor.
Stage right now as we speak, and she is coughing nonstop.
Did she like chuck up a lung or something that one time?
Yeah.
That was super weird.
There is a definitely
she
some
passed out in the
context that needs to
van
be understood.
after she got done with her coughing fit.
Yeah. Looked like she had fucking full-blown Tourette's.
General Jones was originally
It was bad.
Obama the position of Secretary of State. He accepted. Talked to his family. He accepted. And then 2 days later, without even telling him, which was kind of a jerk move to do, Obama turned around and tapped Hillary Clinton. And I know that Jim Jones, told me that his dad was really offended by that. And then he was offered and accepted the position of National Security Advisor, but actually considered turning it down because he was so offended by he was so upset by what had happened.
What would be the point of, like, making Hillary out of the equation to then get Trump in to then want to just impeach him?
Well, because he wasn't their choice. These people hate Trump.
He's a jackass.
So
we're talking about at the time, John
that would just
McCain.
make Pence in charge.
Well, which Pence? You think John McCain would have rather had Pence in charge? You think Lindsey Graham would rather have Pence? Lindsey Graham was so frustrated with Trump, he took his phone and smashed it on YouTube because Trump gave out his phone number. Trump drove that man crazy.
Trump got in the way of the big game, a contest between contractors.
But now Lindsey Graham's all out there campaigning for him, saying that we need to look into corruption and all this other stuff. All buddy-buddied up to Trump.
Mueller, since I think it was like August of 2016, was well aware that I had in my possessions portions of the DNC mirrored server in February and March. Did you know that?
I did not.
And when my private life was collapsing the same exact day, not without a minute of separation, I was served by Barack Hussein Obama's attorney 3 years later to come and talk about it. Did you know that?
I did not know that either.
They went as hard as they could. Stone, the same thing. They went with nothing. Like, look, Mueller called him in, right, for these emails and talking about WikiLeaks when I had actual portions of the DNC. Like, even Mueller knew I had it.
Why did Mueller never call me back when I went to him and told him about all this information and spoke to him for 15 minutes? Every one of these people are so corrupt. It's not even funny.
The swamp already knew in August of 2016 that the information was compromised by people. And they knew what type of people had access to that information, but they didn't know who.
Some people will say, well, maybe they're investigating. And how can you investigate it if you don't ever call me back? And you don't ever really, because there's a lot of things that I need to be able to explain to them that I can't say outside of a classified environment. So they're not even, if they are investigating it, they certainly aren't doing it with all the information.
Stop. We all know it was a fix.
Did the DOJ outsource the Mueller investigation to CGI?
Well, yes, they did. So I'll tell you what happened. So I actually, for my listeners on air, I interviewed former acting Attorney General Whitaker.
I want to ask you something. You were chief of staff for Jeff Sessions. So there's obviously contracts that are signed, like, you know, how you hire vendors. I wanted to know why during the Mueller probe, we spent over $40 million in waste management to a Canadian company that works with Canadian intelligence.
Yeah.
Sounds like paper shredding.
On that, so that's,
yeah.
$40 million to waste management? The fuck you throwing away?
She said they've been doing this since 2016. They've been knowing that the system was compromised.
Your tax dollars.
So I guess they're just paying for that to be erased.
Canadian intelligence companies access to the Mueller investigation.
That definitely seems improper. Now, this Canadian company, how much were they paying? And were they paying them with tax dollars?
We have to ask ourselves, why would we use federal tax dollars, an upwards of $40 million,
$46.6 million for waste disposal.
That sounds like
empty garbage cans.
leaking opportunity. That sounds like, why are we getting foreign nationals involved in an investigation that we're supposedly investigating the president, the sitting president of the United States?
From CGI's involvement in the passport fiasco in 2008 to CGI involved in the Mueller investigation, we see how contractors have the ability to both perform and clean up their own dirty work.
I think it's about time people understand what happened. And I've made it no secret that I know what happened. So, Seth Rich worked for the DNC. He was asked, just like he was asked, hey, why don't you go image the DNC server right there since you're there for us so we can keep it safe? And he did so. And he uploaded it where he was told. So he uploaded it where he was supposed to. And there were a lot of me's that saw it. Me's meaning group of friends that I have where we sit and talk string theory and predictive analytics on the undernet. So we find this and it's like, whoa, treasure trove. Copied. And we fractioned it so that way we can download it because it was so massive. And that's what happened. So I'll tell you what happened to Seth Rich. So he did his job as he was asked. At the same time, the RNC was also hacked. Again, Brennan MO, let's hack. And the hack was done on purpose so you can delete information, insert information, and of course, with them putting Cambridge Analytica and sending them over to President Trump, which was a trap. Okay, that was a trap. You clearly can see it. They hacked the RNC. You mean you had someone within the GOP do it for you, because no one died there. And yes, some of those emails escaped because that is what was considered mitigation. You have to give them something really bad. And so when he saw that they had retroactively changed the stories and the rumors going in, seeing that Bernie Sanders elections were being stolen, the DNC was all about Hillary, not about real elections. That it was
Bernie got it stolen from him twice.
Bernie. He came in contact with a guy named Sean Lucas.
We did make contact with somebody from the Democratic National Committee's office, and they've been served. Democracy has prevailed today.
So they decided, oh yeah, maybe we can get it out to someone else. And it was not to Julian Assange direct. And both of those guys are dead.
In a bizarre twist of events, on August 2nd, less than 1 month after serving the subpoena, Lucas was reported dead.
Hillary's emails were still being examined. They had to get rid of the evidence. And the only way that they can access the whole DNC server...
Get too close to real information and you end up killing yourself.
Yeah.
That's the real story. So as Seth Rich thought that what he was doing was correct, later on he realized it was not. That's why there was such a big gap. They didn't need to find him. They needed to find out who had it. And they already knew that I myself had portions of the DNC server and others in March and February. Obama's lawyer for Seth Rich 3 years later says, you need to come and tell us about Seth Rich. I was like, I don't need to do anything. I don't know who you're trying to... You're being subpoenaed. I can't bring you anything because you're 3 years too late. And for the record, usually they're going to be 3 minutes too late. You know, Hillary doesn't have a patent on hammers. Or city dumps. Or bleach pit. Or, you know.
Didn't CrowdStrike initially investigate the DNC server
There's your Raven.
during the whole Russia
Yeah.
the election scenario?
when the DNC hired us back in May, we actually came in and deployed our technology called Falcon on all the systems inside the corporate network.
Who were these people that were actually doing the hacking of the DNC?
There were two groups, two independently working groups that we associate with Russian intelligence agencies. One of them we associate with GRU, the primary military intelligence agency in Russia.
CrowdStrike, owned by that Alperovich guy, who is a senior advisor on the Atlantic Council. When President Trump called up the Ukrainian president, what did he ask him for? The CrowdStrike servers, right? Again, all immediate direct colleagues, like the brown bag lunch at this big, star chamber that you could imagine existing there.
I'm sorry, Mr. President.
They're all there.
Yeah.
Just like, what can we do? Orange man bad. What are the statistical odds of that 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon existing on virtually everybody connected to the Russian dossier and the impeachment? The only other person that directly connected to both of them is President Trump, and he's on the receiving end of it. But yet you never hear this man's name.
General Jones. That's the guy that heads up Clear Force. That's the guy that took ShadowNet and made it what it is. That's the guy that reinvented ShadowNet to create the magic wheel at the DC courts to make sure that they get the most compromised juries, put together for anyone that they didn't want.
When General Jones was tapped as the chairman of the board of Atlantic Council to replace John Huntsman, one of the first orders of business that he did with the Atlantic Council was to create a partnership with Facebook, right? That happened a month after Mark Zuckerberg sat in front of Congress.
Yes, I mean, they did not want their information to be sold to Cambridge Analytica by a developer, and that happened.
He looks like an alien robot.
So even though we didn't do it, I think we have a responsibility.
His eyes are so creepy.
And be able to take action sooner.
So, as a month after they do that, Facebook partners with General Jones at the Atlantic Council to restore election integrity worldwide, right? So, the best out of 7 billion people on the planet.
Why does a social media company partner with a military general?
Ads on Facebook that
Good question.
included a symbol of an upside down red triangle. Facebook today removed the ads.
Facebook has taken action against what it calls harmful misinformation from President Trump. The company deleted a post by the president that included a false statement.
To restore election integrity worldwide, we all know that he was connected directly.
Yeah, his speech is really weird, isn't it, Borby?
And WikiStrat.
Because he's always lying, so he's nervous, perpetual.
Analytica again.
This also explains why Facebook went to Atlantic Council, aka Jones, to fix the Cambridge Analytica problem.
That's pretty funny.
They
Made it
need
with
to
Kermit.
cover their IIA tracks. What you've seen with the recent riots surrounding George Floyd's death, from your perspective, does that look like an IIA operation?
Absolutely. Nothing feels natural about what's going on. More stuff is fake and fabricated right now in the news than what's actually real. When I say fake or fabricated, I mean like, okay, you have the truth and it's being represented to you with a very specific slant. It's so far beyond, a couple, Russia spending some money on some Facebook ads, right? If you believe that, then they've already won.
So that's how it works.
It's like the movie Wag the Dog, quite literally.
Well, movies tell a lot of stories. And it's almost as if they're making fun of us.
They made fun of Alex Jones when he used to point out all these false flags. I mean, I guess that's just a term he was using, but if you actually look, what he was pointing out in a lot of instances was IIA operations.
Jane, what more can you tell us about the Salomon Brothers building and its collapsing and its collapsing and its collapse?
As you can see behind me, the Trade Center appears to be still burning.
We are getting information now that one of the other buildings, Building 7, in the World Trade Center complex, is on fire and has either collapsed or is collapsing.
Well, but he didn't know the term IIA, so it would be easier for people to understand someone's hacking your reality. Because now in this day and age of computing, that makes more sense to people. They understand it.
Hacking your reality, hacking people.
And that is exactly what an
Changing what you see, changing how you feel.
They're creating the matrix.
Kind of like using that shadow net in the DC courts and saying, oh, prosecutor, you want him to go to jail and you want a guilty verdict? Well, we're going to have
yeah, no shit, right? When the conspiracy theorists end up being the smart ones. Yeah. Truer words ever been spoken.
So there's no chance that you'll win. And even
so
Matt
bad.
Whitaker said that on my show. He said the judges are corrupt.
That's a major problem for the justice
corrupt
system. If people
jury
are able
pool?
to use that technology in jury selection,
Because they use the algorithms to pick people that are going to convict you however they want.
Is anyone stopping them?
Wow.
that's a major problem right there.
It is.
How many times has that been used?
We'll solve it because this is where it all comes to the surface.
How do you think your jury pool was selected?
Well, obviously, I don't know. I do know that based on the statistics on the District of Columbia, that the statistical improbability of my jury having a single Republican should be impossible. The statistical impossibility of my jury having a single military veteran should be impossible. The statistical possibility of my jury having no jurors with less than a college education is impossible. But that was the case.
Well, what if I told you, Roger, that your jury was actually selected, the jury pool, the grander jury pool, right? Before the voir dire, as they say, where you kind of select and approve and deny, right? The majority of it was actually plugged into a program. But see, this program wanted to select a jury pool that would get you a guilty verdict no matter what. Hence, the odds, like you say, are so far-fetched. So the question is, who was the company, who was the vendor that was used to select your greater pool for the jury? And if your, lawyer was able to find that or ask that question, I would not be surprised if you see the name General Hayden hop up.
I do think it might strengthen my possibility.
That's some wild shit right there.
Never plead guilty to something I didn't do. It's a matter that does require some research, and I appreciate you bringing it up.
It's amazing. It's like Minority Report in real time today.
Clear Force is kind of like what they built. It's the next iteration of the Shadow Net. They took the cycle. They took the profile personas and profile capabilities. They added real-time criminal background, travel, financial, medical, added all these things in to create predictive behavioral profiles that determine.
And it's a thumbs down, not a thumbs up.
Clear Force actually sells this to HR, right? So you could actually go into a job, apply for it, and not get a job because an application with an algorithm designed by Obama's National Security Advisor and or Obama's CIA director determined that you were predictively likely to steal or leak in some Minority Report like fashion, and you may never ever steal or leak, but you might lose a job because something read all your posts and looked at your information and determined it.
Think about it. If people knew just how bad it is, think about how many things he's changing and how much money they're taking. I mean, think of all the money they're going to lose in contracting. He's stopped the clearances. Remember, once you're out, now we pull your clearance. He did that, remember? So now all the future generals or all the future intelligence community persons don't get to use their clearance. If you're out, it's finished.
You guys were paying me as taxpayers. Were paying me as the Information Assurance Security Officer to protect our national security. So y'all should want to get to the bottom of this as much as anybody, as much as I do. But it's very personal to me. I won't deny that.
When you have your
Trying to figure out is that background
trying to
music?
usurp your president by penning in an anonymous letter to
It's the
the
show?
New York Times.
Oh, okay.
That's a big
Been there the
problem.
whole time.
This is the biggest and boldest move towards the ultimate surveillance state ever made, and it's near completion. Micromanaging this technology on a global scale would require integrating it with artificial intelligence. Imagine artificial intelligence autonomously operating the ShadowNet and ClearForce. Interpol's 2019 publication, Artificial Intelligence and Robotics for Law Enforcement, reveals we are already there. Quote, although films such as Minority Report and RoboCop may not present the most attractive depiction of the future of advanced technology,
Robotics for law enforcement?
Yeah. I mean, they've already rolled them out in like California. The little, you haven't seen them yet?
No.
There's those. There's the little, yeah,
The
little
drones.
robot things. Yeah.
law enforcement to remove the human factor. Several features of the Interpol program indicate that they are using an iteration of ShadowNet and ClearForce technology. This March 2017 United States patent issued to Jim Jones III and ClearForce
Sure, it sucks to see those things get kicked over or fall over somehow.
to determine potential risk. Several diagrams in this patent look identical to the dashboard layout of the ShadowNet. The patent mentions integration with U.S. and international databases, local law enforcement, and individual state
Defund the
databases, all fed into international justice
Make
and
everybody
public
hate the
safety
police.
networks. Full integration of all data, including
Get
the
rid of the
Internet of
police,
Things, is the
and then
objective.
bring in the
A March
robot.
2020 Atlantic Council Policy Primer, AI, Society, and Governance references the 2019
Minority
Interpol
Report,
publication
iRobot.
stating, quote, the United Nations Interregional Crime and Justice
All coming to
Research
reality.
Institute and the International Criminal Police Organization are leading the conversation on autonomous patrol robots, tracking and tracing systems, forecasting tools, predictive policing, and more. The next iteration of the ShadowNet
Hey,
and
still with us,
ClearForce
Warby.
is
What's
ready
going
to
on?
go. Integration with AI, robots, and the replacement of traditional law enforcement is just around the corner. Given that leftist organizations managed
With
by
all the
Momentum, which
distractions
is
and stuff,
behind the
I mean,
defund the police movement, and given that
just
Momentum
from the
has been
overall
connected
corruption,
to
they want you to be
operations,
distracted
the
with
case can be made that
the
Jones
bullshit
and Co. are running the defund the
and,
police influence operation.
you know, they don't want you to be worried about this type of shit right here. What's being exposed. They don't want you to rise up. That's why they're still pumping the COVID non-stop every single day, 24 hours a day, all day long. It's all it ever is, COVID.
They're just getting ready for mass surveillance on a level that we have only seen in TV shows and movies at this point.
I mean, when Biden gets in, Kamala Harris is going to unleash the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, all the alphabet agencies are going to be absolutely turned loose on anybody that doesn't think the way that they think or is going to toe the line the way that they want. Was that it?
That was it.
That was it? Oh, yeah. So, yeah, there you go. That was the show. Hey.
Yeah, definitely.
That was a long one, yeah.
Oh yeah, our longest so far.
Right. But, yeah, we'll throw the link here in the chat. And, appreciate you guys tuning in.
Yeah, it just kind of puts all the pieces in place here.
Yeah, it just refreshes your mind on what's, going on after the elections. It really pieces things together again. And then, the other two documentaries that we're going to be watching tomorrow, or tomorrow and Thursday, we'll be doing the same thing. Just more and more information. I mean, the more information
I'm
we have,
excited
the more
about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What else could we possibly find out?
There's so much information, it's ridiculous. I mean, people have been just dumping so much information about this stimulus bill. I mean, wow. The shit that's in there. And then they just want to go ahead and give you that $600 check. So check.
And pass it like at midnight. Watch it come to your account at 12:01.
Right. So check your bank account in the morning at 8 o'clock. And then let us know if you got your Pelosi check. Get your Pelosi check.
Yo, Schumer.
Pelosi, Schumer. It's actually a receipt. It's not even a check. It's just a receipt for the billions of dollars that we just gave
Good night.
to all these other countries.
Ashley, thank you for coming. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Appreciate you being in the comment section. Do it Monday through Friday every night at 9 p.m. Alright, y'all. We gonna sign off. Y'all have a wonderful evening. Take care. See you again tomorrow night. Same time, same place.
Yes.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, get your 600 tomorrow.
And that's what they said. Check the Telegram.
Yeah. Alright. Good night.